And this video is going to be called For My Students. This is part 5. And this directly relates to Jeff Bliss. Okay? And we're going to do a long response about this one. First of all, when I was in school, I had an English teacher that was really rough on me. And I didn't appreciate her roughness until years later. Okay? She used to stand there and I would say the word understand, and she would say, no, it's not understand, it's comprehend. Don't say understand, you mean comprehend. She got all over my grammar, my vocabulary, you name it. She got all over it. And I didn't understand why back as a kid. I was so mad at her that I actually learned a whole bunch of Latin etymology. Okay? Now, etymology is the study of word origins. And I studied Latin etymology right and left. That's why I got real good at Italian. Okay? And after a while, when I did all of these intensive studies, I began to realize why she was so tough on me. And although I thought her presentation sucked, I actually had to thank her for what she was trying to tell me, because it was absolutely correct. I needed it, and I needed it bad. And I didn't realize it until years later. I'm glad I have it now. That's why I'm often very tough on people's grammar and vocabulary. See what I mean? Now then, when you're talking about Jeff Bliss, you're talking about a tirade. Okay? Now, what's the harm in his tirade? Well, twofold. Number one, by discrediting himself, he also discredited all of his peers. That made it a lot harder for them to object to the packets they were being handed by that teacher. Now they were going to have to work extra hard to contradict their teacher and her teaching methods. And that's Jeff Bliss's fault. That's bad. But that's mistake number one. Mistake number two is now we have a system where the teachers are now afraid of their students. So they'll stop teaching their students. And you say, what's the problem with that? Well, here's the problem. Do you know a man by the name of Herbert George Wells? If you don't, you need to look him up, because he wrote a book called The Time Machine. And in that book, there are the Eloi and the Morlocks. And students more and more are becoming like the Eloi and less like the Morlocks. Well, if you read that book, it didn't turn out too good for the Eloi. It looks that way at first, but it didn't turn out too good for the Eloi. And that's where all the problems come in. Alright? And I'm going to deal with this in my next video. I want you to digest what I've just told you so far, and then I'm going to go ahead and deal with this in my next, well, it'll probably be 3 or 4 parts on this. So I want you to think about all this. Alright? I will tell you more in a future video. Stay tuned.